Welcome to the official announcement of the declaration of the Dresden Nexus Conference. And we are especially happy that you, Dr. Lippold, could make it to come here. And I'm also happy that my two colleagues, co-organizers for the Dresden Nexus Conference, Lars Bernard, from TU Dresden, Dean for the Faculty of Environmental Sciences, and Marc Wolfram from the Institute for Ecological, Urban and Regional Development can join us. This declaration is the solidification of the partnership between the institutes and the Saxon State Ministry, with a new name after the elections, for energy, climate protection, environment and agriculture. I would like now to call upon State Secretary Dr. Lippold to say a few words to us. And then we will read the declaration. Over to you, Dr. Lippold.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we do.
Yeah, then hello to everybody here. Originally, the plan was to meet the participants of the Nexus Conference at an excursion to a recycling company near to Leipzig in the Espenheim, and the Corona crisis changed the agenda. And the Corona crisis changed much more than only the agenda. And it demands huge and shared efforts to overcome it. But after the Corona crisis, after that huge effort, we will find ourselves still in a world full of challenges, but with much less financial resources. Ecological and climate crisis, limited resources and social tensions, all the big crucial requirements for transformation for nearly all segments of our way to live, to produce, of finding our sustainable place in the global ecosystem are still in front of us. And thus it's the most important point in the present politics, in our daily work here in government and parliament, to use our limited instruments and resources in fighting the Corona crisis in a very responsible, in a wise way. When fighting against the Corona crisis, you have to do it in a sustainable way. You have to take a good step forward in the solution of the other big transformation issues at the same time. And your work here in the framework of the Nexus Conference is a very important support for these goals and our intentions. And I wish to thank you for this work and to wish this conference a big success. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And now Dr. Lippold will start with reading the declaration.
A circular economy for sustainable society. Climate change, the decline of biodiversity, and the increasing scarcity of resources are man-made challenges threatening our livelihoods and prosperity. As a result, sustainability has become a necessity. It is set forth in the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. The legal framework set by political decision makers, along with economy and consumer behavior, all play a crucial role in tackling the issue, especially since production and consumption patterns can be directly responsible for environmental problems. Beyond that, considerations of cost and competition pose significant challenges. By contrast, a circular economy with a capacity for positive systemic change can promote innovation, add value, reduce the consumption of resources, minimize waste generation, and contribute significantly to securing the supply of raw materials. In short, it has the potential to initiate a paradigm shift. A circular economy for sustainable society is the motto of the Dresden Nexus Conference 2020. which will shine a light on the resource perspective of the circular economy and its social dimensions. The DNC declaration aims to spark a scientific and political debate on core questions such as how the transition to a circular economy can be accelerated and how this economic template can become a standard. Of key interest in this regard are questions as to how uniform international standards can be established on a global level through knowledge transfer, sharing experiences, and digitization, and how instruments can be established for anchoring the principle of circular economy in cities and regions. The signatories of the declaration consider the following topics top priorities for the systematic development of new approaches. Will I continue? Yeah. Policies for sustainable change.
Sorry, that would have been Marc Wolfram. Yeah, sorry.
Okay. That's why I asked.
Sorry, yeah. I thought it was Marc Wolfram's question. Marc, over to you.
I continue. So, policies for sustainable change. In the political realm, thoughtful discussion of the challenges facing the circular economy should be intensified, laying the groundwork for needed governance innovations. In order to roll out the circular economy within the existing institutions and government structures, it is necessary to identify the appropriate policy instruments. Critical synergies and gaps need to be identified in order to ensure a coherent policy. Technical and biological cycles, the optimization of existing products and processes and the development of new products and processes can extend the service life of goods, improve their reusability, as well as their ability to be repaired or restored. As a result, unavoidable waste would be significantly reduced while decreasing the consumption of resources, taking into account the particularities of agri-food systems, water management, energy systems, building stock, and infrastructure. So I hand over.
Yep. Economic options, new business models and technologies that may positively impact the competitiveness of the circular economy should be promoted. To this end, instruments and methods for comprehensive life cycle analysis can be developed further. Corporate reporting that takes environmental aspects into account should be adopted widely. In addition, sustainable financing of the circular economy must be ensured, taking into account global competition. Focus on social systems. Citizens must be involved in relevant processes from the very beginning. Appropriate action must be identified to mobilize civil society forces for a sustainable circular economy. Social innovations, digitization, and capacity development should be promoted to foster sustainable social change.
A nexus approach to environmental resources. The nexus approach considers the interactions between environmental resources and their users. This allows for the analysis of synergies and conflicts from a system perspective. The aim is to develop a strategic set of options that help relieve the pressure on our planet's resources. This approach can be used to identify opportunities for action with high impact potential and to leverage them in the appropriate geographic context. An accelerated transition to a circular economy can optimize the recovery of resources, increase reuse potentials, and at the same time contribute to climate protection. Therefore, circular economies of any scale can enable a society to forge its path towards sustainability by curbing consumption of resources, increasing efficiencies, and limiting environmental damage. And with this, we would now like to show you the signatures of the minister and directors of the 3 organizing institutions for the Dresden Nexus Conference. You will find this declaration on our website, both in German. It's a German text because we will continue, as the rector also of United Nations University said in the discussion before, we will focus also on implementing the declaration here in Saxony. So therefore, thank you very much, Dr. Lippold, that you are here, and we will continue the work and we'll meet you in the ministry, we hope soon. As you said in the beginning, and it's translated as you could see. So maybe you also want to adopt the whole declaration, parts of it, and start a movement. Thank you so much. And now we would like to continue and come to the outlook already of this conference. So as we said already in the opening session, the Dresden Nexus Conference is an event, but we decided already before Corona that it should be one milestone in a journey. So now we would like to just highlight some of potential next steps. And for those of you who already were in some of the sessions, you already might have heard that there are special issues planned. So I just have here noted in special 4 it was announced, in session 4, in session 6, in session 9, session 14, session 15. So multiple possibilities to contribute to special issues. There is the newsletter of the conference, so you can read all this in the newsletter. And we also have a treat for you, for all of you who like to take photos. We will kick off a photo competition. We thought DNC itself is interdisciplinary in nature. One angle that we have yet to explore for the conference series is the artistic one. So maybe we have artists here. Often when discussing sustainability, we tend to obsess ourselves with the traditional natural and social scientists. We saw many of them also during the conference, and neglect other less tangible aspects. We had the poems this morning for World Environment Day. We had a music piece for the Prisma Award, and now we go to photos. So art is really crucial because it just touches on the other side of our brain and also our soul. And I think it's also a very powerful leverage for mobilizing action. To not explore this angle when advocating for sustainable development would be to miss out an opportunity. We hope to launch the inaugural photo and video contest in conjunction with the Dresden Nexus Conference series soon. So it will take a few weeks to kick it off, but you will get it via the newsletter as well, and you will get more details. And for those of you who already joined the opening or some of the other Q&A sessions, you are already familiar with this email address. Some also already connected directly during the sessions via the chat, but and you also can still download as a registered participant the participant list. You also can use this email address here, collaboration@unu.edu. We just set this up. Just let us know, and we will also forward this to the other organizers. So it's not that it's only collaboration with UNU, but with all 3 organizers. I would now just hand over to Marc and then to Lars to add more of their thoughts, more of their experiences from the conference, and maybe also other potential avenues how we could collaborate in the future. Marc, would you like to start?
Yeah, thank you, Edel. I think my impression of the overall conference was a very positive one in the sense that it really has shown that the Dresden Nexus Conference is, if it was a real place, if we had a physical meeting, I would say it's the place to be. So in this context, you got to rather say it's the space to be, so including also the digital spaces, because it really has shown a very good overview in terms of the state of the art, engaging with the Nexus perspective. Excuse me, and I think this is something that has also become quite visible and transparent in many different discussions that I haven't been able to follow everything, apparently, but in those that I have been able to follow, that this is a community that has a long history already, and it has definitely moved out of its original corner towards the more multidisciplinary and towards the interdisciplinary. So there is a substantive enrichment of the approaches and perspectives that it can provide. Therefore, also the knowledge that it can provide, and that has increased its policy relevance tremendously. So I see this as a community which is really at a critical step now towards achieving a more direct impact. And I think this has been most evident in the sessions addressing the science policy interface. I think this is directly related to the question, what is the role of science in policy making, and the need for transdisciplinary research, for transdisciplinary education, as was also mentioned in the last round. So how to bring universities, how to bring research institutes in more direct exchange through a variety of formats in terms of knowledge co-creation. So that is, I think, a critical point, that this cannot remain, of course, in the science corner. It needs to be directly connected to policymaking, to the economy, to the private sector, and to civil society. And I think this is a whole range that we would definitely have strengthened further in the case of a physical event, the transdisciplinary dimension. I just recall that our plans for a grand World Cafe initially to actually mingle about the different participants and so forth. So I think this is definitely a strand that we need to look further into in terms of science policy interface. But what it also requires is that there is active support for this, because what we see is that transdisciplinary research is still at the margins in many science and research programs and policies. So I think this is something that really should be more explicitly fostered and supported through corresponding funding. And I think this very community also provides orientations for strategic orientations in terms of what kinds of governance arenas would need to be addressed. So it doesn't have to be an arbitrary approach at all, but there is very clear orientation in terms of where and how such decision-making processes could be enriched through transdisciplinarity. So yeah, I think this is certainly an avenue to further strengthen. Also, indeed, also the interdisciplinary. I mean, there's a good range involved here, and yet I think in terms of linkages towards the social sciences in particular, and really interdisciplinary approaches that really connect between what the system modelers, the engineers, and the natural scientists are doing. I think there's still scope for moving forward, and it's also recognizable already. So for future DNCs, I think we will definitely want to take the best forward of all these experiences that we've had. And that means we also need your feedback, definitely, because this has been definitely also a first experience in terms of large-scale digital conferencing for us as organizers. And we recognize that it has been a very successful event in terms of the interactions that we've seen, the communications, the discussions, and so forth. But we also recognize that there will be a need still, definitely, for a real conference in the future. So I guess the future DNCs will be mingling the best of the two worlds. And for that, of course, we look forward to your feedback more directly. So since you cannot like us here or there, the best is, of course, to send us email feedback and to just tell us what you thought was effective and good and so forth.
And there also will be a questionnaire for feedback.
Yes, so that is something that we, of course, will take into account and on board for the DNC 2022, which is where I look very much forward to see you again. So thanks for joining.
Okay, I take over here, and I would start with something which is a very personal reflection first. That is a great relief that we almost successfully, up to the end, finished a virtual conference. Doing conferences is clearly our daily business, but real conferences, and we are by far not that experienced in virtual conferences. It might have seemed within the last 3 days. And I'm looking very much forward to an also successful end with the next session. And I'm glad that it all worked out in the end in this virtual conference. Coming to the topics, then it was of course striking to me that water was one of the core topics, and it was also in the last Q&A session of David Malone's keynote. And I may mention for all the ones from abroad that water issues, and especially water scarcity, is not only a problem of Egypt or Iran. We also face that even more within the last 2 or 3 years here in Saxony, especially also in Dresden, due to climate change, and we feel it. And it got high up on our political, or even higher up on our political agenda. Thus, it is even clearer that we need kind of intelligent mechanism and intelligent means for managing our water usage and our water quality. And we need them linked into integrated approaches. And that is clearly one of our main challenges. And I'm glad that this very much fits into our University Excellency Program, where we made water research in these extreme conditions one of our core topics. And we try to even strengthen all our water research activities within the next years, having more positions, professorships, more programs, and especially tackling integrated water resource management as one of our core pillars. So I'm glad to see that this is something that had been also developed here, and I'm very much looking forward to related discussions within the next conferences about these topics.
So thank you so much, Marc and Lars. So we are almost done with the Outlook session. We have now 2 more treats for you from the poems of World Environment Day this morning. And actually the session was recorded. So for those of you who were still in bed, you can watch it later. But we have 2 limericks actually that nicely relate to this virtual format of the conference. And then, even more important, our communications teams have composed a video, and this video will then be the end of this session. Thank you very much for all of you. As Lars already said, enjoy the last session to follow. And as Marc said, we hope to see you all in person in 2022 here in Dresden. Goodbye, stay safe, stay healthy, and now enjoy the limericks and enjoy the video.
COVID challenges. A conference, How to Get the Economy Circular, was planned for Dresden but had to go virtual. Corona challenged us all. Finally, we learned not only how to get the economy circular, but also how to get conferences virtual. Cats on Zoom. A conference for circular analysis was met with a challenging catalyst. Due to COVID-19, it now comes through your screen, so your cat can now act as a panelist.